In my past life, I lived as a neglected wife for 8 years. It wasn't until the day I died that I discovered my husband had been saving himself, body and soul. For my best friend, he told me he had lost his ability to have children after being injured while saving me. In the blink of an eye, he brought their 2-year-old son to me. I feel an instant connection with this child. Let's adopt him. He used my family's resources and capital to start his own company. The first thing he did after the company went public was to fill my room with fresh lilies, stamens, and all. I died from an asthma attack triggered by pollen allergies. Given a second chance, I became the #1 shipper of him and my best friend, Xingyi. Anyone who gets in my way is getting bitten. At the seminar for the company's new project, my young assistant nudged my arm and whispered, "Xia, does Manager Liu have some kind of problem with you? When you were speaking just now, he was staring right at you." His expression was really intense. Following her slightly puzzled gaze, I looked over and was startled to see Lu Yang sitting at the far end of the long conference table. He looks like such a nice, harmless guy. How come his eyes look like they could swallow someone whole? The assistant muttered quietly to herself beside me. Across from me, Lu Yang noticed my gaze and instantly shifted his expression. The look of utter disgust on his face melted away without a trace, seamlessly transforming into one of deep affection. The project lead was still dissecting the proposal in detail. The white panel light overhead, bright as daylight, was making my eyes ache. I pinched my thigh hard. The sharp, intense pain jolted me awake in an instant. I glanced at the date on my phone again. I froze. This was the year Lu Yang and I were supposed to get married. Had I been reborn, I remembered that in this same year of my previous life, I was kidnapped by a group of people for no apparent reason. They weren't after money or my body. They just tied me up and locked me on the 3rd floor of an abandoned building overnight. At the time, I thought they were rivals from my mother's business dealings, taking revenge because we had taken their clients. I begged them through tears to let me go, promising them a large sum of money if they did. Just as the lead kidnapper was starting to waver, Lu Yang suddenly appeared. In that moment, he became the very embodiment of justice. He pointed at the 3 kidnappers and let them have it, calling them cowards who only dared to bully a woman. He challenged them to let me go and take their anger out on him instead, and so, the kidnappers took him up on his offer. They let me go and proceeded to surround him, kicking him relentlessly. He ended up in the hospital and was laid up for over a month. I already had feelings for him back then, and after that incident, I was filled with both gratitude and guilt. So when he proposed, I agreed without a second thought, and all of that marked the beginning of my nightmare. After we were married, he finally confessed to me. To save me, he had been kicked by the kidnapper during that incident, which left him infertile. He said if I had any reservations, he would divorce me immediately. He was injured because of me, and we were already married. I told him not to feel any pressure. As long as there was hope for recovery, I would stay by his side and accompany him to every hospital appointment. The irony is, in public he put on a grand performance of being deeply devoted and utterly faithful to me, yet in private, he wouldn't even hold my hand. Too, I was killed because I discovered Lu Yang's secret, and he set me up. That day was the IPO of Lu Yang's company. He had been so busy he hadn't come home for over half a month. While tidying up his study at home, I found a stack of documents in a drawer. On top were the adoption papers for our son, and underneath was the child's birth certificate in the field for the mother's name. It was clearly written, Xingyi. Xingyi is my best friend, my closest confidant since childhood. A chill ran down my spine, but I couldn't believe this Xingyi was my friend. Perhaps it was just someone with the same name. I started rifling through the files in his desk, but found nothing. Finally, I happened to look up and spotted a small safe placed on the very top of the cabinet. I climbed up on a stool, entered the child's birthday from the birth certificate, and the safe opened. Inside, aside from some gold bars and jewelry, there were just a few photographs. There were pictures of him and my best friend, Xingyi, or of the 3 of them as a family. Looking at the old photos, some were even taken before we got married. On the back of one photo, where Xingyi was wearing a wedding dress, it read, "My one true love, in life and in death." It was Lu Yang's handwriting. My mind went completely blank. I couldn't think. My whole body was trembling, and it took every ounce of strength I had just to get down from the stool. One is my husband of 8 years. The other is my best friend whom I've known for over 2 decades. How laughable, how pathetic. Yet, before I could even confront that despicable pair, the very next morning I discovered the entire house filled with fresh lilies, their stamens still intact. 3. I have allergic asthma, and my trigger is pollen. A single bouquet of lilies could be the death of me, let alone an entire room full of flowers. Wheezing and coughing, I frantically rummaged through my bag for my asthma inhaler, only to find it empty when I tried to use it. In despair, I slid down the wall to the floor, It took a mere 15 minutes to go from respiratory arrest to complete respiratory failure in my final moments. Lu Yang returned, though I didn't know when. He stood over me, looking down with eyes full of crimson disgust. I wanted to ask him why he was doing this to me, but by then, I could no longer make a sound. He seemed to see right through my thoughts and let out a soft, contemptuous snort. You could have lived a few more days, but you just had to go into my study and see things you weren't meant to see. You know, E is your sister, your father's daughter. It's time you stepped aside. I've shown you more than enough mercy by letting you stay by my side for 8 years. Your mother's company is under my control and is now on the verge of bankruptcy and liquidation. You can all go and have a nice little family reunion down there. As he spoke, he took a step forward, placed his foot on the back of my hand, and ground it down viciously a couple of times, but due to respiratory failure, I could barely feel the pain. These 10 years with you have driven me to the brink of madness. You treated me like a dog, all because of your family's filthy money, and your insufferably superior mother disgusts me most of all. Now, let her, the old woman your father has been poisoning for over a year, bury her own child. I want to see how many days she has left to struggle. Gradually, I could no longer make out his words as my consciousness faded into a haze. All I could hear was a laugh bordering on mania. For 8 years, I toiled for him, pouring nearly all my resources into supporting his startup and paving his way in the business world. To avoid his business associates saying he got his start by relying on a woman, I willingly stepped back into the home once his company was stable, focusing on raising our adopted son, and that son, as it turns out, was actually his child with another woman. All I did in return was become the target of his calculated plot to kill me and drive my mother's company into bankruptcy. I am filled with such hatred for Ching. What are you thinking about? Lu Yang's deliberately softened, gentle voice sounded in my ear. I didn't notice when the meeting had ended. The vast conference room was now empty, save for Lu Yang and me, staring at the man before me, handsome in appearance, yet with eyes glinting with cunning shrewdness. A suffocating wave of hatred crashed over me like a tidal surge. I wished I could run him through right then and there, but that's far too easy on him. Given a second chance at life, I'm going to change the original plot. I refuse to have anything to do with him again. He and Xingyi can forget about leeching off me, and as for my good-for-nothing father, I'm going to help my mom kick him to the curb for good. In his past life, Lu Yang cared about nothing more than his reputation and the feeling of being superior to everyone else, so he will get none of that. The only thing that can satisfy him now is to let him be with my best friend, Xingyi, forever. I smoothed a stray strand of hair behind my ear and replied airily, I've thought it over. Let's just call off the engagement. Lu Yang, who had been putting on a show of tender affection, instantly changed his expression. Ching, what did you say? Didn't we agree that you'd go home next Monday to sneak out the household register so we could get our marriage license, and then go tell your mom about our wedding after we got the certificate? The abacus beads practically flew into my face. I.e., your calculations' ulterior motives are so obvious they're hitting me in the face. In my past life, my mother didn't approve of my marriage to him. With his encouragement and my father's cooperation, I managed to get the family household register and we got our marriage certificate. My mother doesn't approve of us. I would never marry a man she doesn't approve of. Ching. Are you afraid I'll let you down in the future? I swear to you, I will love only you for the rest of my life, and I'll always treat you well. Isn't your mother's wish to find a man who will be good to you? Though anxious, he deliberately lowered his voice, terrified that our colleagues outside might overhear and discover our relationship at the office. He always pretends we're just regular co-workers, crafting an image of a capable, shrewd elite to avoid any whispers about him being a freeloader, to flaunt his competence in front of everyone. He'd even deliberately challenge my decisions or offer what he considers superior suggestions. Consequently, he's garnered quite a following at work. Through his subtle hints, many have even come to believe that I, as the manager, am less capable than him, the head of marketing. Some colleagues even went so far as to say that without him as my right-hand man, I probably wouldn't have achieved any results at all. He stared at me with hopeful eyes, waiting for my confirmation. I lifted my left hand, glanced at the modest engagement ring with its tiny diamond chips on my middle finger, and let out a derisive snort. My grandfather founded the Yuba Group in Nanchur, my mother is the CEO, and my cousin currently serves as the marketing director. I can't believe I was actually going to marry a man who'd only buy a measly 10-point diamond for an engagement ring. I grasped the ring band with my right hand, twisted it off with a flick, gave it a contemptuous once-over, and tossed it straight into the trash right in front of Lu Yang. It was just a bit of fun. I never thought you'd take it seriously. Lu Yang's breathing instantly grew ragged, his brows furrowed so tightly they could have crushed a fly. He glared resentfully at the diamond ring I'd thrown in the trash, the one where the diamond was almost invisible, and unconsciously clenched his fist. I gave him a nod and a smile, then walked out of the meeting room. 5. I fixed my hair in front of the bathroom mirror. My reflection showed a face full of collagen, radiating youthful vitality. I love who I am right now, still sharp-edged, not yet worn down by life's trivialities. My eyes haven't been clouded by that bitter, resentful look. There's so much in this world to experience, why chain myself to the pursuit of love alone? I went back to the office area to check on how the marketing department was doing. Are you okay? You seemed a bit out of it just now. My colleague Chen-Shi, who I've always gotten along well with, came over to check on me and casually handed me a bottle of the yogurt I usually like. I was just about to offer a few words of thanks when a slightly mocking voice came from behind me. You really know how to butter someone up. Our manager is just wandering around in a daze all day. Who knows how he even got that position? Anyone would think he's got some shady relationship with the marketing director. What a joke. What other relationship could it be? They're siblings. For goodness sake, most people at the company don't know who I really am because the CEO of Yuba is named Xiao, while my surname is Xia. Everyone just assumed I was the new marketing manager who parachuted in thanks to my overseas education and personal connections, and that I had a special relationship with the marketing director, behind my back. They'd even call me the Nepo hire. Chen-Shi frowned deeply upon hearing this and turned around, ready to fire back. I patted the back of her hand, signaling for her to let it go. I glanced back and saw it was Go Jian, Lu Yang's right-hand man from my past life. He was a key player in helping Lu Yang establish the company and had assisted him in countless shady dealings in my previous life. Colleagues were always gossiping about me behind my back. I only found out later that it was all rumors spread by Go Jian. He even twisted a simple dinner with my uncle into a story about me dating an older man. I gave Go Jian a cool glance and said, spreading rumors so easily, with all that energy, why not put it into your work? You've already failed to meet your performance targets twice. According to company policy, I can recommend to HR that you be let go. This company doesn't carry dead weight. He seemed to think I was joking, even choking on his water. You don't actually think that just because you have a fancy foreign degree and got parachuted into our group, people respect you, do you? The company doesn't carry dead weight. Don't you think you're the dead weight here? After saying that, he glanced around the room, as if seeking their approval. Sure enough, many people covered their mouths to stifle light laughs, clearly enjoying the drama. He thought I was joking, as the company had no precedent of firing someone solely for failing a performance review. Typically, a comprehensive evaluation is conducted, and employees are usually given another chance. I just smiled indifferently and called the HR manager right then and there. Uncle Zhang, I need to let someone go. His name is Go Jian. Please have a talk with him and process the termination. The people around us burst into laughter, as if they thought I was putting on some kind of comedy act. But 1 minute later, the landline on Go Jian's desk started ringing. He glanced at the extension number on the phone, looked at me with disbelief, and then answered the call. His expression grew increasingly grim. After hanging up, he strode quickly toward the HR department. 3 days later, Go Jian was fired from the company. I feel a deep sense of satisfaction. I've managed to clip one of Lu Yang's most important claws. In high spirits, I headed to the break room for a snack, but Lu Yang intercepted me in the hallway. He tried to keep his voice down, but it came out as a furious, low growl. What the hell are you playing at? Settling a personal score under the guise of company business. Do you have any idea how crucial Go Jian is to my team? He was on the verge of closing a major project for me, and HR just fired him without even a handover. Do you have any clue how much this is costing me? A joke? Of course I know. I also know he'll use this project to break the $1 million salary mark and climb right into my position as marketing manager. In my previous life, I voluntarily transferred to the research team just to clear the path for him. He was clearly at the peak of his rage, his eyes wide with fury, spittle flying from his mouth and landing on my face. Don't you worry. I've already assigned Chen-Shi to take over this project. Consider it a chance for you to take a breather. Xia Qing. What exactly are you trying to say? My dismissive attitude infuriated him, and his voice rose several notches when he spoke again. Isn't it obvious? I'm targeting you, and you alone, I said, enunciating each word with unmistakable provocation. You. Lu Yang was left speechless with rage. His face flushed, then paled. Once he regained his composure, he grabbed my arm tightly. Don't you forget who saved you. Don't be so ungrateful. For you, I looked him up and down with a contemptuous smirk. What's the matter? All of you can't even father children anymore. as if his disguise had been ripped away, his face instantly flushed with humiliation and shame, the veins in his tightly clenched fists stood out starkly. "Don't come near me again, otherwise, I won't hesitate to look into those kidnappers." Hiring someone for an abduction still carries legal consequences. The kidnapping incident was months in the past, I had no solid evidence, and I hadn't even gotten a clear look at their faces. Finding them was impossible. I was just saying it to call his bluff, but upon hearing this, Lu Yang immediately shut his mouth, straightened up with a hint of guilt, and said, "I don't understand what you're talking about." This feeble attempt to cover up only made me more suspicious of his connection to the kidnappers. I let out a cold laugh, unwilling to argue with him any further. Left with no choice, he grudgingly and resentfully returned to his workstation immediately after. My phone's WeChat was flooded with a barrage of accusatory messages. He was getting on my nerves, so I blocked him right away. Can't even hold out from the very start. The main event hasn't even begun. 7 afternoon. At the private detective agency, I slapped 50,000 yuan on the private investigator's desk. I told him to dig deep into Xingyi's background, not just what I knew from my past life, but to uncover all the hidden details I remembered from my past life. When we went to the orphanage to adopt that boy, Lu Yang said he felt an instant connection the moment he saw him, like he was his own child. He called it fate. How laughable. Of course a father would feel that way about his own son. In my past life, I could never figure out why the son I doted on so much refused to get close to me. He practically despised me, while he was incredibly attached to my best friend. No matter how I coaxed him to do his homework, it was useless. Yet, with just a casual word from Xingyi, my son would obediently sit right down at his desk. He would often say, "You're a bad woman, I wish Auntie Xing were my mom instead." So the whole family had been playing me for a fool, eyeing our family fortune all along, and on top of that, making me raise their son for them. Well, I'm about to see exactly how my dear best friend orchestrated this whole scheme. The private investigator really is a professional. In less than 2 days, they'd sent a compressed file to my email. There were documents, photos, and even compiled videos, all neatly organized in chronological order. Just looking at this material made me utterly sick to my stomach. Even though I already knew Xingyi was my father's illegitimate daughter, seeing the cold, hard proof made my gut churn and I couldn't stop myself from retching. It turns out that Xingyi's mother was a bartender. She got involved with my father while my mother was pregnant with me and ended up giving birth to Xingyi. But men are often unreliable. My father only fancied her for a few years. As my mother took control of Yubo Group, he grew afraid she would uncover his dirty little secret and kick him out. So, he gave Xingyi's mother a sum of money and cut off all contact. How could Xingyi's mother possibly give up? After blowing through that money, she brought her daughter and followed us to our city. Settling down right next to our neighborhood, she willingly became my father's secret mistress, swearing she wouldn't disrupt his family. On the surface, Xingyi became my close friend under my father's arrangement, but in reality, they were working together to siphon off our family's assets. My father was targeting my mother, while she and Lu Yang were targeting me. The more I read, the more horrified I became, my palms breaking out in a cold sweat. I was still going through the documents when my phone rang with a call from the private investigator. "Miss Xia, we've made a rather interesting discovery. It's highly likely that this Xingyi is not your father's biological daughter, as we've just tracked down her mother's official boyfriend at the time. Check your WeChat. I've sent you a picture." I opened the photo. It must be Xingyi's mom and her boyfriend. Holy cow, Xingyi and that guy look at least 80% alike. Especially those upturned eyes and that big nose. They're practically identical. You could almost skip the paternity test. It just hit me. The last thing Lu Yang said to me right before I died in my past life. My father would go so far as to use me as a stepping stone for Xingyi, even going to the lengths of drugging my mother to seize her power. So what happened to my mother after that? After my death, my mother must have been utterly devastated by the loss, on top of having taken the drugs my father arranged for over a year. At that thought, a sharp pang of anguish twisted in my heart. I forwarded a copy of all this sensational drama to my mom. I was convinced she could clean my father out, leaving him with nothing but the shirt on his back. But I never could have imagined that the evidence I was gathering to make my father leave with nothing would end up paving the way for a marriage between him and Xingyi. But that's a story for another time. 8. I suddenly felt like going to check on the house I lent to Xingyi. Come to think of it, her son should have been born by now. Xingyi had been living in my apartment in the southern suburbs. In my past life, she was always pleading poverty. And since I didn't really need that property, she never moved out. Right up until the day I died, I drove straight to the residential complex where the apartment was located, went to the property management office, registered my ID as the owner, and obtained the spare key. Even though I was mentally prepared, the moment I opened the door, I was still utterly shocked. Lu Yang was sitting on the sofa, dressed in light gray loungewear, cradling a 2 or 3-month-old baby in his arms with the breast pump in her hand. Xingyi sat down on the chair and was just about to lift her shirt. A family photo of the three of them still sat on the cabinet beneath the television. The foul smell in the room made my head spin. The noise at the door made both of them look up at me simultaneously. As the realization dawned on them, both their faces paled. Xingyi's breast pump clattered to the floor. "Qingqing, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncontrollable panic. Lu Yang gently placed the baby in his arms onto the nearby rocking crib and stood up. He looked at me, utterly at a loss, his hands nervously rubbing against his trouser legs, guiltily averting his eyes to the floor. He said, "Well, it's your friend's kid who suddenly fell ill. She was in a panic and called my number. I only came to check on them because of you, Qingqing. Don't read too much into it." Xingyi quickly nodded in agreement. Listening to that ridiculous explanation, I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. I reminded him, "Lu Yang, have you forgotten? In the little act you're putting on, the two of you aren't supposed to know each other. I've never introduced Xingyi to you. What's the matter? Got too many scripts going and mixed them up?" Lu Yang's face turned ashen, then deathly pale. He stammered for a long while, unable to utter a single word. I turned to look at Xingyi, whose face was equally pale. Her eyes were rimmed with red, and she looked fragile and delicate, like a pitiful, round white lotus flower. "Qingqing, let me explain. It's not what you think." "All right then, explain it to me. How exactly did this happen?" I crossed my arms leisurely, watching her with an amused gaze. Given the chance, she was at a loss for words, stammering and fidgeting with her fingers in clear embarrassment. I didn't have time to watch her little performance continue. "Get out of my house, now. If I find anything of yours still here in a couple of days, consider it all headed for the dump." Lu Yang stepped in front of me, trying to stop me, but his mouth hung half open, unable to form a single word. "You get out too. Don't you dare act clever in front of me. As far as I'm concerned, you're already trash," I shouted at Lu Yang. With that, I slammed the door and left. From behind me came the sound of Lu Yang frantically calling E. I guessed he must have either fallen or fainted. 9. Early the next morning, Xingyi showed up at my house looking disheveled and unkempt. My father was there at the time, and a flicker of panic crossed his face when he saw her burst in. "E, what brings you here, Dad?" She caught sight of me coming out of the room and immediately corrected herself. "Uncle Xia, I'm here to see Qingqing. She suddenly wants the apartment she lent me back and is telling me to move out. I can't find a new place on such short notice." I was hoping to beg her for a little more time. She put on a pitiful, pleading look as she stared at my father. My dad, hearing this, turned to me in a rage. "Are you that desperate for money from one lousy apartment? E was living there just fine. How could you just decide to sell it out from under her?" I looked at my father's face, flushed red with anger, and wondered what his expression would be if he knew this daughter of his actually belonged to someone else. Just thinking about it makes me grin from ear to ear. "I'm talking to you. How can you be so cold to a friend at your age? That apartment is only a few million. What's the big deal about letting E stay there? If you're short on money, just go sweet-talk your grandpa or ask your mom." And here I thought you were her childhood best friend. My dad's face flushed a deep, angry purple. "Dad, if outsiders saw how fiercely you're defending her, they'd think she was your secret love child," I said with a cheeky grin. Upon hearing this, Xingyi shuddered, her eyes filled with panic. "You little bastard. How dare you speak to your own father like that?" My father reached out, intending to slap me across the face. Just then, my mother, who naturally carried the aura of a formidable female lead, appeared, dressed in a silk nightgown. She looked both languid and sophisticated. She snapped at my father and threw a stack of papers in his face. I caught a glimpse of the words "divorce agreement" on top. Fluttering to the floor was another document, a paternity test report. My father picked up the paternity report first and shot me a furious glare, but after reading the conclusion on the page stamped with a red seal, his gaze shifted from me to Xingyi. He seemed unable to believe it, turning the page over and examining it again and again. He then stared fixedly at Xingyi's face, as if searching her expression for confirmation. Finally, with a furious roar, he punched her in the face. "Ha, so he discovered this woman wasn't his biological daughter after all." With nothing to brace herself, Xingyi fell backward and landed hard on the floor. She picked up the report my father had thrown down, glanced at it, and froze on the spot. My father dropped to his knees with a thud at my mother's feet, slapping his own face while begging for her forgiveness. My mother gestured to the butler standing in the middle of the living room, instructing him to throw all my father's belongings out. My father tried to stop the butler from discarding his things while also reaching for my mother's hand. She kicked him in the chest, sending him Sprawling to the floor, my mother brushed off the spot where my father had touched her and said, "You handle the rest." Then, without a backward glance, she went into the bedroom and shut the door. That's my mother for you, a woman who's decisive and formidable in business, and she's no different when it comes to matters of the heart. 10 My father scrambled to the bedroom door, knocking on it desperately while pleading with my mother to open up, his voice choked with tears. Xingyi finally snapped out of her shock. She slowly rose to her feet, met my gaze at eye level, and curled her lips into a scornful smile. Realizing the game was up and there was no hiding it, she finally dropped the pretense and showed her true colors. "Xia Qing, you're not completely stupid after all. It only took you all these years to figure it out. Not too shabby." She finally tore off her mask of deception, baring her fangs with a predatory hunger. Strangely, it was kind of thrilling. I waited for her to play her trump card and didn't say a word. "Didn't you love Lu Yang to the point of madness? Let me tell you, he loves me. If I so much as crook my finger, he'll drop you in a heartbeat." I frowned. Was this her magic attack? That's it. Seeing my grave expression, she thought she had gotten to me and grew even more smug. "Xia Qing, I've had you wrapped around my finger since elementary school, and nothing's changed, has it? If you get down on your knees and beg me, I might consider letting you have Lu Yang, but I can't guarantee he'd ever choose you." She just kept going on about Lu Yang. I thought she was going to pull out some grand, impressive scheme. I grew impatient and pressed her. "Just say everything you have to say at once." "And then what?" Xingyi's expression froze. She clearly didn't understand what I was trying to get her to say. "Oh, I see, her trump card is Lu Yang. What a blustering fool. I'll think about it," I said with a serious expression. "Since she thinks I can't do without Lu Yang, I don't mind letting her get even more cocky." Seeing my expression, Xingyi thought she had me under her thumb. She gave a disdainful snort through her nose, then glanced at my father, who was still sobbing on the floor, and spat in contempt. "A whole family of idiots." She then shot me a sidelong glance and added, "Well then, I won't be moving out of the house just yet." With that, she sashayed away. I stepped on the paternity test report with my foot, a faint, knowing smile curling at the corner of my lips. "Fine. Don't move out, then I'll just have to sue you for unlawful trespass." 11 Lu Yang hasn't been having an easy time of it lately. I've been giving him the cold shoulder all day, and even his colleagues look at him differently now. To make matters worse, with several of his key allies having been let go, his position within the company is growing increasingly precarious. I've been deliberately shifting resources away from him, and to further tip the scales, I promoted Chen Shi to head of the marketing department, putting her on equal footing with him. Chen Shi's capabilities are in no way inferior to Lu Yang's. In fact, she's arguably even more capable. A graduate of a top-tier double first-class university, she stepped up to lead the marketing department after Lu Yang and I left in our previous life. The reason I haven't severed all ties with Lu Yang yet is to play the long game and reel in a bigger fish. His professional setbacks have made him increasingly insecure and anxious. This resentment towards me deepened, especially after I assigned that crucial project to Chen Shi last time. He's been secretly in touch with Go Jian, who was already fired, and is planning to start his own business again. Coincidentally, they're venturing into the same new energy company they did in our past life. He began paving the way for himself, secretly reaching out to numerous clients who worked with Yuba, trying to sound out the person in charge about the possibility of future collaboration. This is actually a major taboo in the industry. In his previous life, no one made an issue of it because Yuba tacitly allowed his actions and didn't pursue the matter. Now, however, things are different. These clients are companies that have been working with Yuba for years, some even for over 2 decades. Word of this quickly reached the senior management, but I pleaded with my cousin to keep this matter under wraps for now, waiting to settle all scores together when the time is right. Lately, Lu Yang has been acting like a completely different person towards me. He doesn't even care if people at the company suspect him of being a gold digger anymore. He openly fusses over me, bringing me breakfast, fruit, and even personally queuing up in the afternoon to buy me tea. This is treatment I never received in my past life. He showers me with affection every day, while I remain cool and detached. All the while, I've been quietly stripping him of his authority and resources, and I've had the company's integrity department investigate his expense reports, income, and financial transactions. When I saw the investigation results, I was shocked once again. He truly is audacious, exploiting his relationship with me. He has embezzled an untold amount of company funds and gifts. Well, he's always seen himself as the group's future son-in-law. Accepting these things probably felt no different than taking from his own family. Looks like he'll be reuniting with my dear sister in prison. They took different paths, but they've ended up in the Same place 12. After bringing me breakfast of fried dough sticks and soy milk for a month, Lu Yang finally asked if I could front him 30 million to start his business. What? Is his soy milk and fried dough sticks dipped in gold worth 30 million a month? I shot him a look that said, "Are you out of your mind?" before lowering my head to continue with my own work. Ching ching. I know you've been upset with me lately because of your friend, but I swear to heaven, there's absolutely nothing between us. I only love you. I bought you a new diamond ring. If you weren't happy with our last engagement, let's do it again. Don't be jealous. I've seen the little tantrums you've been throwing these past few days, and I promise you, from now on, I'll be completely devoted to you. I put down what I was doing and looked at his serious expression, feeling a herd of alpacas stampeding through my heart. Wait, he doesn't actually think that what I've been doing to him lately is some kind of jealous revenge, does he? Alright then, first, resign from your position at the group, assemble a team, and get started as soon as possible. Really, Ching Ching, I'm all prepared. Talk to your grandfather about using that office building of his in the southern suburbs. We're family, after all. I'm sure he'll support your venture. That familiar glint of shrewd calculation returned to Lu Yang's eyes. Although he started his venture 3 years earlier than in my previous life, his scheme was exactly the same. I smiled and nodded, then made a call right in front of him. 2 minutes later, I said apologetically, "What a shame, my grandfather's entire building has already been leased to someone else. I'm afraid it won't be available for you." A wave of disappointment washed over his face. I could see what was on his mind and offered a suggestion. That company probably won't last much longer. I hear they're about to file for bankruptcy. You might as well rent office space elsewhere for now, and move in once it's vacated. Lu Yang's eyes shifted, clearly weighing the pros and cons. In truth, his startup didn't need much space in the early stages, a dozen people at most, hardly requiring an entire building. His desire for his grandfather's building was purely for show, a matter of prestige. Doesn't grandfather have any other buildings? A conglomerate as large as Yuba can't possibly own just one office tower, can it? After a moment's thought, he couldn't resist asking anyway. I'm not sure about that. Why don't you call and ask yourself? I slid my phone toward him. He hesitated for a split second, then, after another brief thought, his face broke into a wide smile. Ching Ching, I was just joking. I'll listen to you. I'll rent an office space for now, but we have a deal. When your grandfather's office building becomes available, you have to bring it up with him right away. That building should be for our own family's company. Looking at his greedy and cunning face, I felt so disgusted I wanted to throw up the soy milk and fried dough sticks I'd just eaten all over him. 13. He resolutely submitted his resignation. One day after Lu Yang had processed his resignation from the company using my own need to invest in stocks as a pretext, I withdrew every last cent of the funds I had placed with Lu Yang. By that time, he had already paid the deposit to lease the office space. Just as the saying goes, a leopard can't change its spots. He thought he could use my money to rent an office. For a team of just over a dozen people, he insisted on leasing an entire floor, a space that could accommodate several hundred workstations, and on the prime level of a grade A office building, no less. When he went to sign the contract and needed the funds, he discovered all his cards were empty and rushed to the company in a panic to find me. But he's not a Yuba employee anymore, so he couldn't get in at all. I didn't go out until after work. He anxiously cornered me and asked, "Ching Ching, why are all those cards empty? Why didn't you tell me you were going to use the money?" I was absolutely floored by his audacity. It was my own money. Why on earth would I need to tell him? Still, I patiently explained, "A friend has an inside track on an investment that doubles your money. I figured we'd let it roll over a couple of times first. It won't take long, and the balance in your cards will double too, so that's how it is." Lu Yang was overjoyed. He didn't doubt my investment proposal for a second. With the backing of the Yubo Group, doubling that amount of money would be no problem at all. "What about the money for renting an office?" he asked, looking at me tentatively. "You'll have to handle that yourself for now. My funds should turn a profit in about 2 months. I'll give you the principal plus interest to start your business then. Besides, won't your company be my company in the future anyway?" He seemed to have finally gotten the commitment he was waiting for, and nodded happily. The phone rang just then. He glanced at the caller ID, declined the call without a flicker of emotion, and then shot me an apologetic look. "Ching Ching, the company is just getting off the ground. I've got a few more candidates waiting to be interviewed, so I won't be able to spend time with you today. Go ahead, you're busy." "I've made plans to have hot pot with a friend," I said, waving at him understandingly, not calling him out on the fact that it was already well past quitting time. Hearing this, he let out a soft sigh of relief. After waving goodbye to me. He immediately got into the luxury car I bought him, worth a cool million, and sped off. I stared at that luxury business sedan, lost in thought. Even as a used car, it holds its value incredibly well. It could easily trade for at least 2 designer handbags. I need to get it back as soon as possible. 2 months passed, then another 2. Lu Yan has been pestering me countless times to get married and to withdraw the investment money as soon as possible, but he hasn't seen a single cent. Whenever he pushes me about marriage, I just say my mom doesn't approve. I'm determined to string him along and drive him crazy. I heard the money he used to start his company partly came from Xingyi's support, and partly from a loan he took out with a lending company. The interest rates from the loan company are just too high. He begged me to withdraw some of the investment funds to help him pay off his debt. I replied offhandedly, "It's all gone down the drain ages ago. There's not a single penny left." "How is that possible? Even with losses, you should be able to salvage some of the principal. Are you lying to me?" Lu Yang was already suspicious, his face filled with anger. I had no intention of humoring him any further. I couldn't even be bothered to give him a response. "I'm not sure, but the losses have gone into the red. If you don't believe me, go check the books yourself. He doesn't even know what I've invested in. Fat chance he'd be able to find anything." Desperate times, I guess. He started thinking about selling the car. The money would be a drop in the bucket for his current situation, but at least it would buy him a little breathing room. His idea to sell the car played right into my hands. The car is mine. He just had the use of it. The sale would require my presence, so the money from the sale went straight into my account that evening. With the 700,000 from selling my car, I boarded a flight to France to clear my head. It's over. Time to reel in the net. 2 weeks after returning to the country, I had a special gift prepared for Lu Yang. Didn't Lu Yang always claim that his one true love was Xingyi? In his past life, even while building his own career, he never forgot to pave the way for her. If he finds out in this life that Xingyi isn't actually my father's biological daughter and has zero hope of ever entering the Xia family, I wonder if he'll still love her. I was just thinking about the most dramatic way to break this news to Lu Yang. Who would have thought Xingyi would walk right into the trap herself, since she was still squatting in my apartment and refused to move out. I had my lawyer send her a formal demand letter, but then, armed with that very letter, she confronted me right as I was getting off work. The area in front of my office building was spacious, with shops on the ground floor and a steady flow of pedestrians, so that was her game. She wanted to publicly humiliate me, it seems. "You didn't take a word I said the other day seriously. How dare you send me this?" Xingyi flung the lawyer's letter right in my face. Lu Yang, who for some reason had also shown up, was standing right beside her. "You want to trade this thing for my house?" I glanced at Lu Yang standing beside her and asked with a light chuckle, "Who are you calling a thing?" Lu Yang snapped, furious, "Oh, my apologies. Then you're not a thing." I shrugged, offering a nonchalant apology. Xingyi stepped forward, placing herself between Lu Yang and me. "I know you have feelings for him. This little tantrum of yours is just jealousy. I can step aside and let you have him, but on one condition: you transfer the deed of the apartment I'm living in to me, and give me 5 million on top of that." "Who do you think you are? You're in no position to bargain with me." I couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on her. I turned to the side, intending to walk past her. She reached out and blocked my path. "This is your last chance. Take it, or I swear I will never let Lu Yang go." I looked at Lu Yang. Wasn't he the least bit resentful about being passed around like an object? It seems he really wasn't. In fact, he seemed rather proud, probably thinking the two of us were fighting over him. "Ching Ching, I want to tell you that Yi is actually your sister. If you don't believe me, you can go home and ask your father. Please don't fight over me. Give her the house and the money. It's a drop in the bucket for you anyway. From now on, I'll be devoted only to you. All this time, you've been deliberately humiliating me. Isn't it just because you want me back?" Lu Yang thought I was just being jealous and throwing a tantrum, which took my understanding of his shamelessness to a whole new level. "Oh, she didn't tell you. Her mother is a hostess, her father is unknown, and she has absolutely no connection to our Xia family. Mrs. Singh has seen the paternity test report with her own eyes." After speaking, I stared intently at Lu Yang, not wanting to miss the dramatic play of emotions on his face. Sure enough, his expression shifted from shock to disbelief, then to suspicion, and finally to anger. He grabbed Xingyi's arm and demanded, "Is what she said true?" Xingyi struggled to break free from his grasp. "Lu Yang, you're hurting me. Let go." Their argument quickly escalated into a physical scuffle. One accused the other of being a scheming gold digger. The other sneered at their selfishness and utter self-absorption. The crowd was growing So I quietly slipped away 16, but of course, the drama was far from over. It wasn't long before both received court summons. Lu Yang was sued by Yubo for embezzling company funds and leaking trade secrets during his employment. I'm suing Xingyi for trespassing on my property. However, Xingyi is in a slightly better position. She's currently breastfeeding, which gives her a lot of legal loopholes to exploit. Lu Yang came rushing to me in a panic, desperate for help. He pounded on my door so loudly it was banging. If I weren't worried about the neighbors complaining, I really wouldn't want to see his face again. The moment I opened the door, he fell to his knees with a thud. His posture, his expression, it was almost identical to my father's. Ching, you have to save me. I was tricked by that bitch Xingyi. It was all her doing. She said you were gullible and easy to fool. She hired people to kidnap you and then told me to rescue you. It was all her. I'm being sued by Yuba. I'm going to jail. Ching, please, I'm begging you, go talk to your mother. She can protect me. I truly loved you, but your father and Xingyi manipulated me together. Your father couldn't stand being controlled by your mother. It was their idea. It had nothing to do with me. Ching. He had already collapsed to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably on the floor, his shoulders heaving violently. It was clear he was in a state of extreme emotional distress. A criminal case has been officially filed now. Even my mother can't protect you, especially since I was the one who told the company to report it. What? Lu Yang abruptly straightened up from his kneeling position, looking at me with utter disbelief. Suddenly, he screamed maniacally, Xia Qing, did you know about my relationship with Xingyi all along? Was this all your scheme? What else could it be? I had been making it obvious all along. He was just too overconfident to see it. Why on earth would you do this to me? Are you satisfied now that I have nothing left? He glared at my face with venom, his gaze growing colder by the second. There was a murderous glint in his eyes that made me nervous. I quietly backed toward the door and pressed the emergency security button on the wall-mounted intercom. If he got desperate enough to do something rash, I'd be in real trouble. He sneered, Xia Qing, you're determined to ruin me, aren't you? I should have seen it coming, from the moment you fired my assistant and took over my project. But if you're going to leave me with no way out, don't expect to walk away unscathed either. Lu Yang's eyes grew redder, almost bulging with fury. A sense of dread settled in my gut. He pulled his lips into an even more menacing grin, inching closer step by step until his terrifying face was almost pressed against mine. Then, with one hand gripping my chin, he pulled out a spray bottle with the other. Trying to force it into my mouth, I kicked at his groin while covering my nose and mouth, then threw myself to the floor to block the doorway, buying as much time as I could. After what felt like an eternity of struggling, the security guards from downstairs finally rushed in. They pinned Lu Yan to the ground just as he was pressing the spray bottle against my mouth. Tests later revealed the spray contained a high concentration of pollen, enough to trigger a severe allergic reaction. This is attempted murder, combined with his past crimes of embezzling company funds and trading corporate secrets. That's enough to put him away for over a decade. 17. As for Xingyi, because she is a nursing mother and a single parent, although the court sentenced her to 2 years in prison, the sentence was suspended for 2 years. I heard my dad went to confront her multiple times, demanding she cough up all the money and gifts he'd given them over the years because my mom kicked him out, leaving him with almost nothing. And after she put the word out, no one dared hire him again. Of course, he wasn't exactly capable either. His previous executive position at Habwa was just a sinecure. At best, he might have managed as a security guard. I thought that was the end of it, but then came a twist that absolutely floored me. Of course, Xingyi didn't have the money to pay my dad back. Seeing that Lu Yang's release from prison was nowhere in sight, she simply married my father instead, choosing to settle the debt issue from within the family. So the story goes, my former best friend schemed to become my sister. But that plan fell through. Instead, she ended up becoming my stepmother. Thank goodness I'm a student, otherwise I'd never be able to untangle this messy web of relationships. But none of that matters anymore. Since I can't champion the Lusong ship, I'll proudly champion my dad and Xingyi instead. I wish that scumbag and that trashy girl would stay together forever. This further increases the proportion of high-quality singles in the dating pool. End of text. Story 2. I've been kidnapped. The kidnappers called my husband, who was busy being lovey-dovey with his white moonlight. Your wife is with us. Bring 10 million to get her back. On the other end of the line, my husband's voice was ice cold. She's not worth that much. Just tear up the ticket. I closed my eyes in despair. The kidnapper suddenly untied me and respectfully offered a cup of hot tea. Young mistress, the chairman has given the order. If your husband dares to say no, he is to be dealt with on the spot, and you will inherit the company. I held that cup of tea, my hand still trembling slightly. My father, yes, the burly man said, bowing and scraping. The chairman said this is called a stress test. I suddenly found it somewhat amusing. My father, the chairman of the Lin Group, a businessman who never believed in tears, only in profit and human nature, with a meticulously planned kidnapping. He tore away the gentle facade of my 3-year marriage and Xinyu, he couldn't even pass the simplest of tests. What do you mean by handle it? I asked. The burly man made a slashing motion across his throat, his eyes fierce. Handling it in the physical sense, the chairman said. A treacherous snake like that is nothing but trouble if we keep him around. I shook my head. No need, leave him to me. I want to watch with my own eyes as he loses everything he's been scheming and scrambling for. The burly man, Wang Meng, who was also my father's head of security, personally drove me home. It's a river view villa in a prime downtown location, the marital home I shared with Xinyu. The deed is solely in my name. The car stopped at the entrance, but I didn't get out immediately. Wang Meng looked at me through the rearview mirror. Miss, your orders, Brother Wang, I began. Who else knows about what happened today, besides you and me? I only have a few absolutely reliable men. I'll report to the chairman personally. Good, I nodded. Let's pretend today never happened. I may need to trouble you again later. You flatter me, miss. It's my honor to serve you. I pushed the car door open, got out, and unlocked my front door with my fingerprint. The living room was brightly lit. My husband, Xinyu, was embracing a woman on the sofa. That woman was my own sister, Linyu. Linyu was wearing my silk robe, her long hair cascading down, her delicate face streaked with pitiful tears. Xinyu was holding her, whispering soothingly, don't be afraid, I'm here. The air was thick with the intimate scent of them, a decadence I knew well but had never sensed between them before. That silk robe on Linyu was my favorite one, yet now it clung to her like a glaring, mocking shroud, wrapping tightly around her smug triumph. The moment I walked in, the two of them sprang apart like startled cats. A flicker of panic crossed Xinyu's face, but he quickly composed himself. He stood up, walked over to me, and asked with a hint of reproach in his voice, where have you been? Your phone was off. I looked at him, this man who, just a moment ago, would have gladly seen me dead, now playing the part of the worried husband. How ridiculous. I had something to take care of, so I went out for a bit, I said flatly. Linyu also walked over, timidly grabbing my arm, her eyes rimmed red. Sis, please don't blame brother Yu. He was just too worried about you. You weren't answering your phone, we were worried sick. She's always been like this, with that fragile, vulnerable look of hers. Even the most serious mistakes sound perfectly justifiable when she explains them. It's been this way since we were kids. If she broke mom's favorite vase, she'd cry and say, my sister pushed me, I didn't mean to. When she lost dad's important documents, she'd sob and say, my sister asked me to get her homework notebook for her, that's how I accidentally dropped them. And my parents would always just point their fingers at me and scold, you're the older sister, can't you just let your little sister have her way? I brushed her hand aside and fixed my gaze on Xinyu. Oh really, were you that worried about me? Of course. Xinyu frowned. You didn't say a word about where you were going. Do you have any idea how worried I was? Then why? My voice was quiet, yet it landed like a thunderclap, exploding through the living room. Did you just tell the kidnappers to kill the hostage? Xinyu's face instantly drained of color. What did you say? Xinyu's voice trembled slightly. What kidnappers? What are you talking about? Kill the hostage. Linyu widened her eyes, feigning innocence. Sis, are you sure you saw right? Brother Yu has been with me the whole time. I just smiled. I walked up to them, took my phone out of my bag, and hit play. It was the recording I'd asked Wang Meng to make in secret. We have your wife. Bring 10 million to get her back. She's not worth that much. Go ahead and kill her. Xinyu's icy, merciless voice echoed clearly in every corner of the living room. The color drained from his face, turning from ashen pale to a deathly gray. Linyu was also stunned, her mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. Now, do you need me to repeat that? I said, looking at Xinyu. His mouth opened and closed, as if he wanted to defend himself, but no words came out. The recording was irrefutable proof. Lin Qing, please, let me explain. He finally found his voice and took a step toward me. I took a step back, evading his outstretched hand. Don't touch me. His hand froze in midair, a wounded expression on his face. I thought it was a scam call. You know, there are so many of those these days. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. Scam calls tell you to go die. That's not what I meant. He protested urgently. I just panicked and said the first thing that came to mind. Panicked. I looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. Xinyu, we've been married for 3 years. In your heart, is that all I'm worth? A careless remark. No, Qing, you have to believe me. I love you. In his desperation, he tried to embrace me. Linyu suddenly let out a sharp scream, clutched her stomach, and collapsed to the floor. Ah, my stomach. It hurts so much. Xinyu was instantly drawn by Linyu's scream. He rushed to Linyu's side, scooping her up into his arms. His face was etched with a panic and desperation I had never seen before. Xiaoyu, what's wrong? Don't scare me like this, brother you. My stomach hurts so much, our baby. In his arms, Linyu was crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. Her delicate face contorted in agony. A child. My mind went blank with a sudden, deafening buzz. 2 years of bitter herbal medicine, the crushing disappointment after every fertility checkup, his gentle reassurances. It's okay, Qingqing. There's no rush. I love you. With or without a child, those lies that once felt so comforting now cut through me like shards of ice, flaying my heart piece by piece. Xinyu swept past me like a gust of wind. Linyu cradled in his arms. Lin Qing, if anything happens to Xiaoya, you'll pay for this. He shouted those words at me before storming out the door without a backward glance. I stood alone in the vast, empty living room, my hands and feet ice cold. So, not only had they betrayed me, but they also had a child together, and I, the fool who was kept completely in the dark, had spent 2 years drinking that bitter, awful traditional medicine, all in the hope of conceiving his child. He accompanied me to every single prenatal appointment every time the doctor delivered the results. He would hold me and gently reassure me, it's okay, Qingqing, there's no rush, I love you, with or without a child. Looking back now, all that tenderness was nothing but a carefully woven lie. I suspect those test reports had been tampered with by him long ago. My phone vibrated with a message from Wang Meng. Miss, I've got the information. Linyu has registered at Renai Hospital's obstetrics and gynecology department. She's 8 weeks pregnant. Renai Hospital is the very same place where I go for all my prenatal checkups, and Xinyu's college classmate happens to be the head of that hospital's OBGYN department. Everything is falling into place. I walked slowly to the sofa and sat down. I used to think this place was my sanctuary, but now I see it's just a gilded cage. I picked up my phone and dialed my father's number. Dad, it's me. My father's steady voice came through the phone. Have you thought it through? I have, I said. I want a divorce, and I want 30% of the Lin Group's shares. This was left to me by my mother. However, when I got married, my father transferred it to Xinyu's name under the pretext of giving Xinyu some experience, using it as a stepping stone for him to enter the core management of the Lin family business. Fine, my father agreed readily. I'll have the lawyer handle it tomorrow. Qingqing, hold on a moment. My father's voice on the other end of the line carried a hint of coldness. I'll have Wang Meng send you the confidential financial reports on Xinyu and Linyu from all these years, along with the evidence of their collusion, directly to your email right away. There's one more thing. I paused. Xinyu and Linyu, neither of them is going to get off easy. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Linyu is your sister, too. The moment she stopped treating me like a sister, I stopped having one. My father sighed. Have it your way. After hanging up the phone, I gazed out at the inky black river, a profound calm settling over me. This battle was only just beginning. The next day, I didn't go to the office. My father's legal team worked with remarkable efficiency, drafting the divorce and share transfer agreements and delivering them to the villa by that very morning. I signed the document, placed the agreement on the coffee table, and waited for Xinyu to return. He didn't come back until noon, looking utterly exhausted with dark circles under his eyes. Seeing me sitting on the sofa, he paused for a moment, then walked over, his tone softening considerably. Qingqing, are you still upset with me? Last night was my fault. I was too impatient. How is Linyu? I asked, my tone as casual as if inquiring about the weather. He paused for a moment before replying. It's nothing serious. The doctor said it's just a bit of a scare with the pregnancy. She needs to rest. That's good. He seemed taken aback by my calmness. Looking somewhat at a loss, Qingqing, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have yelled at you, but Xiaoya, she's carrying my child. After all, I can't just abandon her. He said it with such self-righteous conviction, as if I were the one who had cheated. I looked at him and suddenly found the whole situation utterly absurd. Xinyu, let's get a divorce. I pushed the papers on the coffee table toward him. His face fell again the moment he saw the words divorce agreement. I won't agree to it. He refused without a second thought. Qingqing, I love you. I can't live without you. What happened with Xiaoya was just a moment of weakness. I swear, I'll end it with her for good. A clean break. I shot back. What about the baby she's carrying? He was speechless. I'll give her money, enough to take care of it, and send her abroad. She'll never trouble us again. He said it in a rush, as if forcing out a painfully difficult decision. Looking at his hypocritical face, I felt nothing but Disgust, no need, I said, you leave with nothing, and I'll let you and her fly off together, leave with nothing. He acted as if he'd heard the biggest joke. Lin Qing, don't forget, I own 30% of the company's shares now. What gives you the right to make me leave with nothing? Just this. I pulled out my phone again and played another recording. It was a conversation between me and Wang Meng. The chairman has given the order. If the son-in-law dares to say no, he's to be dealt with on the spot. Shen Yu's face drained completely of color. He slumped on the sofa, staring at me as if I were a monster. You and your father plotted against me together. You were the one who couldn't withstand the scheme. I stood up, looking down at him. Shen Yu, sign it otherwise. I have no idea what my father might do. Shen Yu looked at me, his eyes filled with fear, resentment, and a trace of venom. He picked up the pen, his hand trembling violently, and signed his name on the agreement. He signed the share transfer agreement as well. After signing, he slammed the pen down on the desk, all the life seeming to drain out of him. Lin Qing, you're truly ruthless. I'm not on your level, I said flatly. You're the one who wanted me dead. He had no strength to argue. Get out, I said, my voice a clear dismissal. He stood up and stumbled toward the door. At the threshold, he suddenly turned back to look at me. You'll regret this. I ignored him. After he left, I gave Wang Meng a call. Brother Wang, have someone tail him and see where he goes. Half an hour later, Wang Meng called back. Miss, he's gone to Renai Hospital. Just as I expected. He still can't let go of his precious darling and that child. I changed my clothes and drove to Renai Hospital as well. When I arrived, Shen Yu and Lin Yu were arguing in the hospital room. The door to the room was ajar, and from my spot in the doorway, I could hear their conversation clearly. What did you say? Divorce, and leave with nothing. Lin Yu's voice was shrill and piercing. Shen Yu, have you lost your mind? Have you forgotten all our plans? What choice did I have? Shen Yu's voice was thick with frustration. Lin Qing's father found out about us somehow and set a trap for me. If I didn't sign, I wouldn't even be able to save my own life. What about our child? What about our company? What about all the money we invested? Lin Yu cried out. That was our entire life savings. Keep your voice down, Shen Yu hissed, lowering his voice. The most important thing right now is to keep Lin Qing calm. Once this blows over, I'll find a way to get the shares back. Get it back. You make it sound so easy, Lin Yu sneered. Do you really think Lin Qing is still the same pushover you could boss around? She's made it perfectly clear she's out to destroy us. Then what do you suggest we do? A sharp slap echoed through the hospital room. It seemed Lin Yu had just slapped Shen Yu. You useless piece of trash, Lin Yu spat out. If it weren't for the fact that you had a bit of a brain and could help me get Lin Group's shares, I would never have stooped to be with a social climber like you. Lin Yu, don't you dare go too far. Me, go too far. Shen Yu, get this straight. You're the one who's lost everything now. What do you even have left to throw your weight around with? I stood at the doorway, listening to this whole dog-eat-dog spectacle without a single ripple of emotion in my heart. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The argument in the hospital room stopped dead the moment they saw me. Lin Yu lay on the hospital bed, tears still streaking her cheeks. When she saw me, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes. Shen Yu, his hand covering his face, also looked thoroughly embarrassed and ashamed when he noticed me. Don't mind me, I said, pulling up a chair and settling in to watch them with leisurely composure. Please, don't let me interrupt your heartfelt exchange. Lin Yu bit her lip and remained silent. Shen Yu's face flushed with a mixture of pallor and anger. Lin Qing, what are you doing here? He asked. I came to see my dear sister, I said, laying heavy sarcasm on the word dear, and to hear your grand plans while I'm at it. You heard all that? Lin Yu asked, her voice trembling slightly. Not the whole story. I shook my head. Why don't you start from the beginning for me? For instance, when did this all begin? And for another example, what's the story with that company of yours? They both fell silent, not talking. That's fine, I said with a smile. I've got all the time in the world to find out. I stood up and walked over to Lin Yu's hospital bed. She instinctively shrank back. Don't be afraid. I leaned down and whispered in her ear. I won't hurt you. After all, the child you're carrying is a Shen. I straightened up and looked at Shen Yu. Take good care of her. After all, she's your only hope now. With that, I turned and left. Once outside the hospital room, I immediately called Wang Meng. Brother Wang, I need you to look into a company for me. It's co-founded by Shen Yu and Lin Yu, and it shouldn't have been registered for long. Brother Wang, contact the media immediately. I want the scandal involving Shen Yu and Lin Yu to be front-page news within 24 hours. After hanging up, I walked out of the hospital. The sunlight outside was harsh, squinting. I drove straight to the company. From today onward, I will be the one calling the shots at the Lin Group. I returned to the company and went straight to the chairman's office. My father was practicing Tai Chi in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. Seeing me enter, he slowly brought his movements to a close. Is everything settled? Yes, I nodded. The divorce agreement and the share transfer agreement are both signed. That Shinyu kid, didn't he make a fuss? He wouldn't dare. My father chuckled, pouring me a cup of tea. I knew it. He's all show and no substance. A pretty but useless pillow. Dad, I looked at him. You knew about him and Lin Yu all along, my father sighed, neither confirming nor denying it. Ching Ching, you're my daughter. I would never do anything to harm you. Someone like Shinyu, with ambitions far greater than his abilities, will only bring you trouble if he stays by your side. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me if I told you? He retorted. You nearly cut ties with me, your own father, just to marry him. I fell silent. It was true. Back then, I was blinded by love, diving headfirst into the gentle trap Shinyu had woven, deaf to anyone's advice. And what about Lin Yu? I asked. How do you plan to deal with her? She's your sister, my father repeated. She didn't think of me as her sister when she was hurting me. My voice turned cold. Dad, stay out of this. I'll handle it myself. My father looked at me, his expression complex. After a long pause, he finally nodded. You've grown up. After leaving the chairman's office, I immediately called an emergency meeting with all the company's senior executives. At the meeting, I announced two things. First, Shinyu and I are divorced. All his shares in the Lin Group have been transferred back to me. Second, effective immediately, I will officially assume the role of president of the Lin Group, taking full responsibility for the company's operations and management. The announcement sent a ripple of shock through the boardroom. Most of these executives were old-timers who had built the company with my father. Naturally, they viewed me, the parachuted-in young miss, with deep skepticism, especially Zhang Hai, the vice president. He's my cousin from my father's side, and he's had his eye on the CEO position for a long time. Ms. Lin, he said with a thin, insincere smile, you've just taken over the company and aren't yet familiar with the operations. Can you really shoulder such a heavy burden alone? Whether I can handle this or not isn't for you to decide, Vice President Zhang, I said, looking at him with calm confidence. This company doesn't belong to me alone, it belongs to everyone here as well. With everyone's support, I believe the Lin Group will only grow stronger. I paused, then shifted the tone of the conversation. Of course, if anyone here doubts my capabilities, or has divided loyalties, you may submit your resignation now. I won't stand in your way. The Lin family has no use for idlers, and even less for traitors. My gaze swept over every person in the room. A dead silence fell over the conference room. Zhang Hai's expression darkened. I know, clearing this hurdle is just the beginning. To secure my footing at Lin Corp, I'll have to prove my real worth. Right after the meeting, Wang Meng's call came through. Miss, we've got a lead. The company is called Yadong Tech. It was registered 6 months ago, with Lin Yu as the legal representative, but the actual controlling shareholder is Shinyu. Their office is in the building right across from ours. What's their business scope? It overlaps significantly with the West District Smart City project our company is currently bidding on. I see. Shinyu and Lin Yu had this planned all along, to hollow out Lin Corp and set up their own venture. The West City Smart City project is Lin Corp's top priority for the second half of the year, with massive resources and manpower invested. If this project is snatched away, the blow to Lin Corp would be devastating. Brother Wang, I need you to do a few things for me, I said, lowering my voice as I gave my instructions over the phone. After hanging up, I looked out the window at the office building across the street where Yadong Tech was located, a plan already forming in my mind. Shinyu, Lin Yu, your little game is over. The next day, I went to work as usual. I had just arrived at the office when my assistant knocked and entered, looking rather flustered. Mr. Lin, we have a serious problem. The core technical proposal for our West City project has been leaked. I feigned surprise. What happened? This morning, our competitor, Yadong Tech, published their proposal on their official website. It's identical to ours. I turned on my computer and navigated to the official website of Yadong Tech. Sure enough, their proposal was a near pixel-perfect copy, from the technical architecture down to the implementation details, and their release time was 2 hours ahead of ours. This means, to the outside world, it looks like our Lin Group plagiarized them. The office phones were soon ringing off the hook. Partners, the media, shareholders, everyone came demanding answers. Inside the company, anxiety and panic were spreading. Zhang Hai was the first to burst into my office, slamming a newspaper down on my desk. Lin Qing, look at the mess you've made. In just a few days, you've turned the company into a complete disaster zone. How dare you even show your face in that chair? The front page headline of the newspaper was printed in bold, black type. Lin Corporation embroiled in plagiarism scandal. A century of reputation, gone in an instant. I picked up the newspaper, glanced at it, and tossed it back onto the desk. Vice President Zhang, why are you getting so worked up? The matter hasn't even been fully investigated, and you're already convicting me. What's there to investigate? The evidence is irrefutable. Zhang Hai pointed at the computer screen. Their proposal is already posted online. The entire industry is watching the Lin family become a laughingstock. Is that so? I smiled. Then why don't we make the joke even bigger? I immediately contacted my father, asking him to leverage his connections to have the police simultaneously launch an investigation into Xinyu's commercial espionage. All the evidence will be ready before the press conference begins. I've instructed my assistant to call a press conference. The news sent shockwaves through the entire company. Mr. Lin, have you lost your mind? Holding a press conference now is like offering our face to be slapped. Exactly, Mr. Lin, think twice. We should conduct an internal investigation first and root out the mole. Zhang Hai was hopping mad. Lin Qing, you're going to destroy the Lin Group. I ignored them and walked straight into the conference room. The press conference venue was already packed to the rafters with media from all sides. Camera flashes went off incessantly, almost blinding. I walked to the front of the stage and took my seat. The reporters opposite me, like sharks that had caught the scent of blood, clamored to ask their questions. Mr. Lin, how does your company explain the allegations of plagiarizing didnt's proposal? As the industry leader, why would Lin Group stoop to such a disgraceful act? May I ask, is the insider who leaked the plan Mr. Xinyu, who has already left the company? Is this related to the breakdown of your marriage? The questions grew increasingly pointed. I raised my hand, signaling for everyone to be quiet, everyone, I began, my voice amplified clearly to every corner of the room by the microphone. The reason I've asked you all here today is to clarify one matter. Lin Group did not plagiarize. The audience erupted in an uproar. So, President Lin, are you saying that didnt plagiarized from you? A reporter shouted. You could say that. What evidence do you have? As far as we know, didnt announced their plan earlier than you did. Evidence? I certainly have it. I clicked the presentation remote. A document appeared on the large screen behind them. This is the patent certificate our Lin Group applied for 3 months ago, covering the core technical solution for the West City project. The patent number and application date are clearly stated, yet didnt has only been in existence for half a year. I'd like to ask, how could a company that's only been in business for 6 months independently develop a technology for which we filed a patent? 3 months ago, a stunned silence fell over the room. All the journalists stared wide-eyed at the patent certificate on the large screen, their faces a picture of disbelief. I continued, as for how didnt obtained our plans, I think that's a question for its actual controlling shareholder, Mr. Xinyu. Mr. Xinyu, as my ex-husband and a former executive of the Lin Group, abused his position to steal company trade secrets, in collusion with his mistress, Ms. Lin Yu, who is also my own younger sister. He sought to harm the interests of the Lin family. Regarding this matter, we have obtained conclusive evidence and have already filed a report with the police. I clicked the presentation remote once more. A video began to play on the large screen. It was a scene of Xinyu and Lin Yu arguing in the hospital room. Have you forgotten what we originally planned? Once the heat dies down, I'll find a way to get the shares back. If it weren't for the fact that you had some brains and could help me secure the Lin family shares, I would never have gotten together with a social climber like you. Every word was crystal clear. The room erupted into absolute chaos. Corporate warfare, divorce, sibling rivalry, the other woman. Each element was explosive enough to ignite a media frenzy. As I looked at the flashing cameras in the audience, my heart turned to ice. Xinyu, Lin Yu, this is just the beginning. The effect of the press conference was immediate. Public opinion reversed in an instant. The Lin Group went from being the plagiarist to the victim. The official website of didnt was overwhelmed and crashed by furious netizens. The company's stock price plummeted in response, losing nearly 30% of its value in a single day. Xinyu and Lin Yu became public enemies, scorned and condemned by everyone. Police swiftly launched an investigation and took Xinyu into custody on suspicion of commercial espionage. Lin Yu was placed under house arrest due to her pregnancy. My mother called me in tears, screaming at me over the phone. Lin Qing, have you no conscience? She's your own sister. How could you do this to her? Mom, I cut her off. When she and Xinyu were scheming against me, did she ever stop to think that I was her sister? She just made a mistake in the heat of the moment. She was deceived by that bastard Xinyu. Why can't you forgive her just this once? Forgive her. I laughed. Mom, do you have any idea that Lin Yu was right by Xinyu's side when he told the kidnappers to kill me? Do you have any idea that she got pregnant with that child while I was drinking traditional medicine for 2 years just trying to conceive? Do you have any idea that the money they used to start their company was what I gave to Shinyu, for him to show his filial piety to you? With every word I spoke, my mother's breathing grew more ragged. Enough, stop it, she shrieked, cutting me off. No matter what, you can't push her to the brink like that. She's carrying a child, the child is Shinyu's, not mine. The path she took was of her own choosing, no one else is to blame. Lin Qing, how did I ever give birth to such a cold-hearted, heartless daughter? With that, she hung up the phone. I held the phone, listening to the dial tone, feeling not a single ripple of emotion in my heart. Cold-hearted and heartless, they're the ones who pushed me to this point. Step by step in the afternoon, Zhang knocked and entered my office. The arrogance he once wore was gone from his face, replaced by a complicated expression. Manager Lin, he stammered for a long moment. I failed to recognize your stature before. Please don't take it to heart, you're too kind. Vice President Zhang, I said, looking up at him. We all have the company's best interests at heart. Yes, of course. He nodded repeatedly. That was a masterstroke. Not only did it clear the company's name, but it wiped out the competition in one fell swoop. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I smiled, offering no clear answer. Regarding the West City project, I'll be counting on you to put in the extra effort from here on out. Vice President Zhang, you have my word. I will spare no effort and dedicate myself entirely to the task. After sending Zhang Hai on his way, I leaned back in my chair, feeling somewhat weary. It looks like we won this round, but I know this isn't over. As long as Lin Yu is still around, and my mother is still here, this farce won't end easily. Sure enough, just a few days later, my mother stormed into the company with Lin Yu in tow. I was in the middle of a crucial project meeting at the time. My mother barged into the conference room, shoving the door open, with Lin Yu following close behind, wearing a mask, sunglasses, and bundled up from head to toe. Lin Qing, you get out here right now. My mother stood with her hands on her hips, shouting like a fishwife. All traces of her usual ladle-like elegance gone. Everyone in the meeting room froze, staring at the sudden commotion. I frowned. Mom, I'm in a meeting, whatever it is. Can we talk after I'm done? I can't wait. She rushed up to me, pointing a finger in my face. You're coming with me to the hospital today to bring your sister home. Home? I shot back. Which home? Yours, or mine? Of course it's our home. My home is not open to the other woman or her bastard child. My words landed like a stinging slap across my mother's face. She trembled with rage. Her hand raised to strike me. I didn't flinch, but her hand was caught by my father. My father had arrived at some point, standing behind my mother with a dark expression. Haven't you caused enough trouble? He growled. Aren't you ashamed enough? Lin Jiangwo, you have the nerve to talk about shame. My mother shook off his hand and pointed at me. Look at the fine daughter you've raised. He's disowning his own family. He's trying to drive his own sister to her death. She brought this on herself. My father retorted without a hint of mercy. You. My mother was speechless with rage. Lin Yu stood to the side, trembling with fear at the sight of my father. She took off her sunglasses, revealing a pitiful, tear-streaked face. Dad, sis, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'll never do it again. As she spoke, she started to kneel down before me. I stepped aside to avoid it. No, I said, I don't deserve this. Sister, she grabbed the hem of my clothes, crying even harder. Please, for the child's sake, forgive me this once. He's still so young, he can't be without a father. The child not having a father is your and Shinyu's responsibility, not mine. I coldly brushed her hand away. Lin Yu, cut out this pathetic act of yours. It makes me sick. Lin Qing, my mother shrieked again. How can you speak to your sister like that? Then how should I speak? I looked at her. Should I congratulate her for being pregnant with my ex-husband's child? Wish them a happy union and a speedy delivery? You're utterly unreasonable. You're the ones who are beyond reason. I finally couldn't hold back any longer. One uses her own daughter as a tool to seize the family fortune. The other uses her own sister as a stepping stone to climb higher. You two, mother and daughter, are a perfect match. My father's expression grew increasingly grim. He shot a glance at the bodyguard behind him. The two bodyguards immediately stepped forward, flanking my mother and Lin Yu, and seized them by the arms. Take them away. My father's voice was utterly devoid of warmth. From now on, they are not to set foot in this company again without my permission. Lin Jiangwo, how dare you? My mother shrieked, struggling violently. Lin Yu was also terrified, her face pale with fear as she sobbed. Dad, please, no, Dad. But no one paid them any attention. They were quickly escorted out of the meeting room. The farce had finally come to an end. In the meeting room, you could have heard a pin drop. Everyone was looking at me, their gazes a mix of pity, awe, and a hint of schadenfreude. I took a deep breath and settled back into my seat. Let's get back to the meeting. After forcing that mother and daughter out of the company, Things became much more peaceful. The West City project was secured smoothly. As there were no competing bidders, the company's operations are gradually getting back on track. My authority within the company is becoming increasingly solid. Xinyu's case will go to trial soon. Commercial espionage, plus the evidence I had Wang Meng gather about him previously exploiting his position for personal gain, accepting kickbacks, and embezzling public funds, with the combined penalties for multiple crimes. He was sentenced to 10 years. I didn't attend the sentencing that day. Wang Meng was the one who told me the outcome. He said that Xinyu kept looking at the public gallery in the courtroom, as if searching for someone. But not a single person he was looking for showed up. I wasn't there. My father wasn't there, and neither were my mother or Linyu. He was utterly abandoned and defeated. That's exactly the outcome I was hoping for. As for Linyu, being an accessory to the crime and in her lactation period, she received a suspended sentence. She moved out of that villa and, together with my mother, went back to live in the old Lin family residence. I heard she gave birth to the child, a boy. My mother was overjoyed, holding her grandson all day and showing him off to everyone, as if that child could wash away all of Linyu's stains. They tried to contact me a few more times, hoping I would help them out for the child's sake. I ignored them every single time. My father turned a blind eye to it as well. He stopped interfering with that mother and daughter, but tacitly allowed them to stay in the old house. I knew that, deep down, he still clung to that faint thread of familial affection. I didn't care. I poured all my energy into my work. Under my leadership, Lin Group's performance soared, and we successfully expanded into several new business areas. I became known in the business world as the Iron Lady, renowned for my decisiveness and formidable drive. No one dared to call me young miss anymore. Everyone respectfully addressed me as President Lin. I thought life would just go on quietly like this until that day. I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Xinyu's mother, my former mother-in-law, Qingqing. "It's Mom," came a frail and almost pleading voice from the other end of the line. I was taken aback for a moment before I realized who it was. Xinyu and I had been married for 3 years, and I've only met this mother-in-law of mine once. At our wedding, she is a typical country woman, timid and quiet. Xinyu said she's in poor health and isn't used to life in the big city, so he's always kept her settled back in their hometown. Every month, I have Xinyu send her a living allowance. There's almost no connection between us. "Can I help you?" My tone was polite, yet distant. "Qingqing, dear, I know Xinyu wronged you. He's a scoundrel, and he's getting his comeuppance. He deserves it." She started crying as she spoke. "But, I'm begging you, please, for the sake of our time as mother and daughter-in-law, just go see him, will you? He's not going to make it." I frowned. "What's wrong with him?" He has cancer. It's terminal," she sobbed, gasping for breath. "The doctor says it's a matter of days. He wants to see you one last time." I fell silent. To be honest, I have no feelings left for Xinyu whatsoever. Love, hate, it all vanished into thin air with that lawsuit. Whether he lives or dies is none of my concern. "Qingqi, I'm begging you," she pleaded desperately over the phone. "Can't you just take pity on this old woman? He's my only son." I felt a pang of irritation, but in the end, I found myself agreeing, almost against my own will. "Send me the address." After hanging up, I told the driver to take me to the address she had sent. It was a small hospital on the outskirts of the city. In the hospital room, I saw Xinyu. He lay in the hospital bed, gaunt and emaciated, nothing but skin and bones. If not for the face I could still faintly recognize, I would hardly have believed this was the same man who was once so full of vigor and ambition. Upon seeing me, a faint glimmer of light appeared in his clouded eyes. He struggled to sit up, but lacked even the strength to lift his hand. His mother, a frail old woman, hurried over to support him. "Qingqing, you came." His voice was hoarse, like a broken bellows. I stood at the doorway, not moving closer. "You wanted to see me. What for?" He looked at me and suddenly laughed, a smile more bitter than tears. "I just wanted to see you one more time." Cough, cough. He was seized by a violent fit of coughing, hacking as if trying to expel his very lungs. His mother patted his back, tears streaming down her face. I watched the scene, feeling nothing inside. "I've seen enough," I said. "I'm leaving." I turned and was about to leave. "Wait," he called out urgently. Linyu, what about her?" "She sold the child." I stopped in my tracks. "What did you say?" "She thought the child was a burden, so she sold the child to traffickers." Xinyu gasped for breath, speaking in broken fragments. "She took that money and ran off with some pretty boy." I turned around and looked at him. His eyes were filled with utter despair and venomous hatred. "That bitch Linyu. She's not even human, for that pretty boy. She not only sold our child but also injured my mother." Cough. How could I have been so blind to get involved with a woman with a heart as black as a snake's? "She'll get what's coming to her. She will, I swear." He was seized by a violent coughing fit. each heck sounding as if it were tearing the pain straight from his lungs. My mother went to see her, and she beat her up. My mom is so old, how could she lay a hand on her? Lin Qing. He looked at me, a trace of pleading in his eyes. I know, I have no right to ask you, but, that child, he's your nephew too, please, help me, find him and bring him back. He finished speaking, only to be racked by another fit of heart-wrenching coughs. As I looked at him, it suddenly struck me that nothing in this world could be more bitterly ironic than this: a woman who, in the name of so-called love, abandoned her husband and child to elope with another man, a man who, for the sake of so-called prospects, betrayed his wife and embezzled the family fortune. Back then, they kept saying it was all for the child's sake. Now, that child has become nothing more than trash they can discard at will. Lin Qing, I'm begging you, he continued to plead. I looked at him and shook my head. Xin Yu, do you still not understand? That child was destined for tragedy from the moment of birth, and the ones responsible for this tragedy are none other than you and Lin Yu. You destroyed your own lives with your own hands, and you destroyed that child's life as well. So now you want me to clean up your mess. Why should I said, then turned and walked away without looking back at him. From behind me came the sound of his mother's piercing, anguished wail. I didn't look back. Stepping out of the hospital, the sun was shining brightly, yet I felt a vast shadow had settled over my heart, one I couldn't shake. I gave Wang Meng a call. Brother Wang, I need you to look into something for me. Wang Meng was remarkably efficient. 3 days later, he placed the investigation report on my desk. Lin Yu had indeed sold the child. It was sold to an underground organization specializing in illegal trade. She took the money and went abroad with a small-time thug she met at a bar. My mother went to confront her, but that thug beat her so badly she's still in the hospital. When my father found out, he was so furious he smashed everything breakable in the old house on the spot. He used all his connections to freeze all of Lin Yu's overseas accounts. That lowlife dumped her as soon as he realized she was out of money. Lin Yu was stranded abroad, penniless, unable to speak the language, and living in utter misery. She wanted to return home, but due to my father's interference, she couldn't even buy a plane ticket. She called and texted me countless times, begging me to save her. I didn't reply to any of them. As for the child who was sold, Wang Meng also found a lead. That underground organization plans to sell him to a wealthy businessman in Southeast Asia for some unspeakable purposes. The exchange is set to take place in 3 days, on a yacht in international waters. Wang Meng asked me, Miss, should we? I shook my head. Call the police. But, Wang Meng hesitated. If we do that, the Lin family, I don't care. I cut him off. The law applies equally to the prince and the commoner. Lin Yu broke the law, so she must face legal consequences. As for that child, I paused. While he is innocent, I owe him nothing. The best I can do is return him to a normal world, not treat him like a commodity to be bought and sold. Wang Meng looked at me and gave a nod. I understand. 3 days later, Interpol, in a joint operation with police forces from multiple countries, conducted a raid on the high seas. That underground human trafficking ring was taken down in one fell swoop. All the trafficked children were successfully rescued. Lin Yu's child was among them, as his biological parents could not be found. He was placed in a local welfare institution. Meanwhile, Lin Yu was placed on Interpol's global wanted list for suspected child trafficking. She will face the full force of the law. Everything has been settled. Xin Yu passed away the day after learning the child had been found and that Lin Yu was wanted. When he passed, only his poor, elderly mother was by his side. My mother had been hospitalized for 2 months before she was finally discharged. After leaving the hospital, she seemed to have aged 10 years. Her hair turned completely white, and her mind became distant and unfocused. She stopped making a fuss or causing any trouble. She would just sit by the window all day, lost in thought. I went to see her once. She held my hand, repeating the same words over and over. Ching Ching, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I looked at her, my heart a tumult of conflicting emotions. I didn't say I forgave her, nor did I say I didn't. Some wounds, once inflicted, can never be healed. I just told the nanny to take good care of her, and then I left. I never went back to the Lin family's old house. My father, it seems, has come to terms with a lot. He entrusted me with most of the company's affairs, while he himself became enamored with travel and photography, roaming all over the world. Occasionally, he would send me some of the landscape photos he took. On the back of each photo was his bold, vigorous handwriting. Ching Ching, your father is so proud of you. I carefully collected and preserved all those photos. As for me, I'm still the ever-busy Mr. Lin. Every day brings an endless stream of meetings, documents to sign, and official duties to attend to, but I no longer feel tired because I know that everything I do, I do for myself to protect the empire I built with my own 2 hands on weekends. I sometimes visit the orphanage to see that child. He bears a strong resemblance to Shinyu, yet there's a hint of Linyu in his eyes and brows. He's healthy and lively. And all the caregivers at the orphanage are quite fond of him. I never told him who I was, I simply supported all his living and educational expenses as an anonymous benefactor. I hoped he could grow up healthy and happy in an environment free from hatred and conflict. As for where his life would lead him in the future, that would be his own choice to make.